Hello, Facebook. It's Reid from readaboutsex.com, and this is bedhead because I have not taken a shower or done anything today other than try to get caught up on all the things I'm behind on because I was teaching at back-to-back festivals, and Jimanekia was kind enough to be like, if you're in LA, crash at my place, and all you have seen me do is sit here working. And then I was like, we need to Facebook Live. Let's talk about stuff. And you like helping parents and adults learn how to be better at talking about sex to kids. And I say adults, not just parents, because I'm an uncle.
I'm a godmother.
You're a godmother. So tell people, as you sign on, let us know where you're signing on from, and say hi. And then tell people a little bit about what you do, because you've been on my channel before.
So last time we were talking about sexual assault survivors and supporting them. I am currently working on a consulting space where I assist adults with having those scary conversations with the children and kids in their with kids in their
just don't
in their
read the
I know,
comments.
it distracts me.
I'm amazed that you can even see the
I
comments.
got good eyes.
Man, you and Allison are both like hawks. Like, they can read things from everywhere.
We're like amazing people.
I am not. Alright, so back to you.
So having the conversations that are appropriate for the age level of the children, as well as that it comes from you on an appropriate and safe level.
So what would be some mistakes? Like how do adults make things either unsafe, or like how do we know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate?
I think sometimes with dealing with children, the first thing we do is tell them no and stop them instead of having the conversations. I've been called by my best friend, like, okay, somebody's doing this, what do we do? Instead of like shaming my goddaughter from humping things, we say, maybe we shouldn't do this right now, or why are you doing that? Does it feel good to you? Like, having the conversations instead of just shutting them down and making them feel like they're doing a bad thing, it doesn't help future conversations or future growth.
Because why would a kid want to talk to you about something that they were already taught was bad?
Yeah.
And then, and do you think it's more that adults, I mean, one, we don't talk about sex in our culture much to begin with, right? But do you think part of the problem is that adults aren't talking to other adults about how to talk to kids, and we just end up freaking out because we don't know what to do, and we just kind of pass on the way that we were shamed and whatnot? Or do you think it's just like, I don't know, what do you think? You're the expert. I'm not.
I think it's a lot of people not having their own sexual education, and the information that they did receive. We always talk about this as sex educators. We didn't get the information that was needed to kind of help us go along in life. And so not having that information, and also being scared of their kids' reactions, being scared of having that intimate, like, different level, because we are shamed so much historically about sexuality, and then sharing that with your child, for me, it helps build relationships. Having the conversations, having that tough conversations allows for open doors for other conversations with kids.
Oh yeah, I guess so, huh? Because it's not just sex, then it's like alcohol, it's like drugs, it's
you're building trust.
Trust, okay.
If you can build trust with kids, I've worked in mental health for like 8 years. If you can get over the hump of kids not trusting you, they will come to you with things you never even thought they would, or even have the verbiage to ask you about.
And do you think, okay, so I'm not a parent, I mean, I'm barely I'm an uncle, but like, I wouldn't say that I'm like in my nieces and nephews' lives. And I know you're very involved with your
littles.
Yeah, your littles. So for adults, do you think part of the reason is just that we didn't get accurate sex education, or do you think that we're afraid, we don't want to talk about it because we're afraid we're going to screw it up? Like,
again, I don't have children, so that I know that's some issue for some people, but seeing them grow up, I think it's worrying about, if I do this, is this going to lead to further things? Am I going to screw this up? I think raising children in general, there's always that in the back of the head, and I got to fuck my kids up. So, I mean, having the conversations, I feel like if you are starting to mess them up, they may be like, hey, you know what? I don't like this. Or can we work on this? Again, having the toughest conversations first up front kind of allows for like comfort and space to deal with like things that may not be as scary to you and or your kid.
Sure. And if you're getting, I'm going to imagine, right? If you're a parent or if you're an adult who has kids around, you being bad at the beginning, having those initial conversations, if you get better, if you get the tools, you work with people, talk to other parents, and you get more comfortable, then you also can get better at having the conversations rather than never having them at all, which we know screws people up.
Yeah.
Now I almost want to interview Vera Casey and some other parents, sex ed parents out there, and all of you parents and adults who uncle and aunt and whatnot, feel free to leave some comments about what your thoughts are. So what are some tips for making space safer for kids around talking about sex? Or maybe it's a making safe space for yourself as an adult so that you can then feel safe talking to kids.
I think it starts with the adults before you even get to the kids. Doing some research, doing some educational checking in with the age-appropriate information. There's a lot of information out. Do something that's fitting for that age group. Don't try to just look at teenagers or adolescents because there's a lot of information. But, psychologically, there's only so much going on at a certain age point. So you may not want to push, your kid a little too far, but give them the information that's the best.
Yeah.
And then actually having the conversations. Ask your kids questions. I think people get scared of asking their kids questions because they don't know what's going to come out of their mouths. You'd be really surprised, or maybe not, by what kids are seeing these days. And maybe they've just been waiting for someone to ask them so they can be like, oh, finally, I've been wanting to know what this was.
Yeah, and you're also practicing just having conversations.
Yeah.
So asking questions. I have, sex geek parents who really kind of approach a lot of this basic stuff for young kids just around like science. And and just anatomy and talking about basic stuff and not really making it a big deal, and using correct vocabulary for things, and kind of using that to prime, I guess, to set the territory before they start wondering, well, what do we use this for, kind of stuff.
And kids are always watching us. When you think they are not watching you, they are watching you. So even if one of your kids or a child in your life asks you a question, they're watching for your reaction to be like, can I ask them other things? Like if you're like,
they're testing you.
Yeah, if you ask them a question, they're like, they're going to be like, oh, well, can't ask you anything. But if you're like, okay, well, tell me more about that. Or why do you feel that way? Then they're like, okay, well, and that allows their minds to turn. You want them to ask you the questions. So then you can meet them kind of where they are.
Yeah. But you're creating that safe space so that they can have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's all about trust.
Yeah.
With any kid, I don't care if they're like 6 months old, you drop 6 months old, they maybe be like, I don't know if you can hold me, and cry every time you're near them. Just like with any teenager or adolescent, building trust in that relationship is really important to them, because most of the time, the people that they go to for advice is our parents.
The ones that they trust. Exactly. Well, thanks for stopping by today, and for
stopping by my room.
Let me just sit here and just get as much work done as I can as I recuperate from Intimacy Fest and Soul Play, and then I am recording a podcast tomorrow in Malibu, and then I fly off to Canada to Guelph University in Toronto to do some more speaking. Where can people find you and get resources and things like that?
Yeah, so sewjim.com, SEWJIM.com, also morethanknow.org. I do a lot of support with sexual assault survivors, and we have a show coming up next month, July 8th. It is going to be our Pride show, but basically our show is Cabaret Consensual, where we support sexual assault survivors. A lot of our performers are sexual assault survivors or allies, and we push consent culture.
And then SOJIM stands for Sex Education with
Jim.
Jim.com. All right. Bye, everyone. Leave some emoticons on the way out. Share this video with a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or just some people. And leave your comments and your questions and the advice you have for your experiences as well.